We're back.
We're back. Oops, sorry.
And we're back together. And it's been a couple weeks.
Together. Yeah. Very busy couple of weeks.
Yeah, we're sorry about that. We thought we planned well, and then we didn't book time to record.
Mm-hmm.
And
we also didn't book our events in our lives to originally happen at the same time. So
it's true. We
tried to space it out.
Yeah, and so for the last 2 weeks without an episode being available to you, which for the most part I think is okay, because actually there's been a few people who have sent me messages recently about our latest one, that they just listened to it.
Oh,
or
yeah.
that is someone else was like, hey, I'm catching up on your podcast.
Yeah.
It was a friend of mine had done that, and she was like, oh, I just listened to the Jessisode and wanted to check in on you. And I was like, oh, so just because we're pumping it out once a week doesn't mean people are listening at that same pace.
Right.
So I think we're okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. So I think we're okay a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm officially moved into my new place, so that's the reason why I've been a little busy.
I've been having a baby.
You've been having a baby.
And then some.
And then some, yeah.
We did an intro. This is Jennifer.
And this is Jessica.
And this is the Behavioral Plan Podcast.
So we have a few things that have happened to both of us in the last couple weeks in regards to our children,
mm-hmm.
that we thought we could use as today's topics. And I think, at the root of it is this post that we posted on social media about trusting your gut.
Mm-hmm.
And it said moms always know, but I think, we can break that open, right? Parents always know.
Absolutely.
The caregivers of children always know. The people who are in charge of these kids, who, support them and love them,
mm-hmm.
regardless who you are to that child. You know your child
mm-hmm.
best. You are the expert on your child.
Mm-hmm.
And, when we start branching off into these other areas of getting to know your child better, you're still bringing to the table your full knowledge about your child, even if you are unpacking, uncovering, figuring it out, fine-tuning with experts. But what really grinds my gears is for example, my 6-year-old, my middle child, a few years ago had dabbled at Fraser for a little bit, right? We did family therapy. Then it was recommended that we did the day treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were like, okay, half days. He'll do half days at his preschool and then the other half of his day at this day treatment thing, and he'll actually get some good concentrated support. 2 weeks in, I get a call from the person in charge of day treatment telling me that she just doesn't think this is a good fit for him. And honestly, I'm surprised. Where did you get the diagnosis for autism? Because I don't see it. I don't see it. Honestly, I think it's just anxiety. And I was on the phone with her while driving with my child behind me, so I can't say all the things I want to say because my child's behind me.
Oh man.
And and the 2 weeks that we were slowly adapting to this new schedule, to this new environment, to this new set of expectations, all of these things, right? It takes time for children to get used to something new. And that's all children.
That's all children.
It takes time. And you need to establish healthy attachment to feel safe enough to not act out behaviorally, all these things, right? And then this woman had the audacity on the phone with me to say, I don't think he has autism. I think he has anxiety. And I was just like, thank you very much, bitch. We will not be going back to you. I'll swing by. I'll grab the stuff. I'm just going to keep him. We're done.
Right.
Oh, well, we could keep seeing it. Nope. I have no interest in him staying in your program for a day, a second, a millisecond. The urge to not only get off the phone with you, but then to immediately call the people in charge of you and be like, this wasn't right.
Right.
You know? Oh my god. That's a few years removed, and I'm still pretty hot about it.
But it's a very real situation when you have kids that aren't on one extreme or the other extreme, right? Like, we've talked about how our kids are in that nice little in the middle situation where they may not always qualify for stuff, or they may not always need support, whatever the case may be. But, like, I hear it about my 8-year-old all the time, and over again about my 2-year-old, which is a whole different ball game because my 2-year-old is a she. And let me tell you how many times I've been told, well, that's just, that's just how girls are. Or I really don't see it. Or how many people, let's see, we have our pediatrician, we have our PM&R, we have our OT person was on our side about this, but our core team, oh, she doesn't walk on her toes. No, you don't need to worry about that. Like, that's developmentally normal, blah, blah, blah. Finally get her back into PT recently, which I'm very excited about. And first thing the lady says is, oh, and she's a toe walker. Like, I'll make note of that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, she is. Like, I'd say she does it like 50% of the time. It's like her dad probably would say 30%. And she's like, no, she's doing it 100% of the time. Her heels never touch the ground. It looks like they do when she has shoes on, but they never touch. So every once in a while when you find that person that goes, oh, no, I see what you're seeing. And then it makes you want to go back to this person, be like, I told you so. This person, be like, I told you so. All these motherfuckers, I told you so. Trust your mom gut. And then we're on the adventure of starting to get more services and talk more openly about her autism diagnosis. And her pediatrician just was like, can I see the paperwork on that? Like, could I read it? Because I can't believe that. And I'm like, and she even asked where did you get?
In a magazine, bitch. I opened up Cosmo and it says, is your child autistic? And then you circle A, circle D. Like, no. Who do you think, like, and I'm not saying that there's not a person out there that's not looking at a meme online going, oh, that's me. Yeah, that explains all of my quirky quirks. Right. I mean, there are people out there that do that, and like, fine, that's that category. Mm-hmm. But like, read the fucking room. Like, hi, I'm a parent, and we've had this discussion this whole time, right. And we are not just meeting for the first time, and you're like, do you take care of it with crystals or with medical advice? Like, you're like testing out the temperature of like who this person is. Like, you know me.
Exactly.
Please don't belittle me.
Be dismissive.
Don't dismiss me. Ugh. And my child.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't fake this shit. You can't make it up. You can't make it up. No. You could go in, and even if, and I thought about this recently, you could go in, right, with a little Munchausen syndrome maybe, and be like, ooh, ticky tack 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 on the survey, and make it all the fuck up. And then they're like, oh wow, yeah, this kid must be. And then they see them and they go, whoa, mm-hmm. That doesn't match that. Right. What's going on here? And so, like, that's how they filtered those people out. And also, I think it's discrediting the level of education and expertise of the people in the field of neuroscience and neurological development. You are like, right? Because even, Susan,
sure,
from the lobby of some clinic saying, I don't see it. Well, bitch, this person with a PhD sure did.
Right.
So you saying that you're, and then let's say they're like, oh, but I'm being casual about it. Oh, I don't see it. But, I believe you. Well, you saying you don't see it
and then asking to show
is proof is basically saying, what I understand of what you're telling me
Right.
is just a checklist of exaggerated traits
Yes.
or, a certain type or a certain combination of traits.
No. Oh, nope. She's making eye contact.
Exactly. And that dips back into our last episode when we were talking about the entertainment industry and glorifying and making a spectacle and a performance out of some of these traits. And this is where you and I were like, I'm hesitant because we live this other, we live in reality,
right,
where we have to look at people who are like checking us out or are professionals in other ways,
right,
who then look at our children and go, well, they don't look like it. I don't see it. And it's like, well, what is it you're expecting? Something you saw in a movie, something you saw, those things aren't 100% accurate
if you're not the expert in that field. If you are not the expert in that field, I'm not coming to you for advice on this.
With the diagnosis I already got.
Right.
And
I just need you to add it to her records.
And everybody listening knows how really fucking uneasy it is to get a diagnosis.
Well, and
like, that was not an easy process.
Well, and as a parent who primarily fills out all the paperwork.
We know you out there. We know you out there.
It takes a mental toll on your soul to fill out year after year after eval after this, where all you have is, we struggle with this. We're not doing this yet, because I refuse to say we can't do this. We aren't doing this yet. This is not something in our wheelhouse. Like, whatever, however you want to word it, right? But, like, I wish that on no parent. Because very little, I think maybe one in every couple of evals, they'll be like, what are some of your child's strengths? But even that feels, it just feels off. It just feels off. Because now you're going to sit for the next couple of hours and fill out about your child on their worst day. I'm going to highlight that. On their worst day. We all know, in order to accurately describe what's going on, you have to think about those things. So then to go to, whether it's your pediatrician, grandma's house, it could be family. It doesn't even have to be people in the medical field, right? Like, don't, or the other post we had, don't come in here and say, but they're so smart. Like, there's so many of these factors. I'm not asking for your 2 cents. No one asked for it. I'm sorry.
No.
But, like, be more of a support system. Be more, like, keep it to yourself, maybe.
I mean, option one,
something.
keep it to yourself. And option two, don't look at it like it's a cancer diagnosis.
Right. It's the whole circle in a, or box in a hole.
What?
Circle in a...
Whoa, it's your dick in a box.
A peg in a hole. No, not a peg in a hole.
A square, or a circle peg in a square. I don't know. Sure.
Whatever's sticking in the hole.
It's just a dick in a box.
But, like, it's not a one-size-fits-all. Clearly, we all know this.
Yes. But, like, when you say, oh, but they're so smart. Oh, but they're so social. Oh, but they're so sweet. Then what you're doing is saying, what I'm hearing you say is so negative. Is a weakness. Is a disadvantage. And I'm not saying that there are elements of that are true and part of our story.
Right.
But, like, but don't, like, if we have come to the point where we have to share that bit of information with you,
right,
like, that takes a second.
Yeah.
To be like, well, let me explain. My son is autistic, or my son has ADHD, and that's why he just yeeted that across the room and is now spinning in circles, and I'm not stopping him.
Right.
Like, and then your response is, oh, okay, thanks for sharing that with me. Done.
Because you already feel so raw and open with all your ooey gooeys out there, like, waiting for someone to slip up and say something.
Say something like, oh, but I don't see it. He's so smart. He's so handsome and, like, capable. And, like, well, stop.
Right.
Just
you're
like,
saying that in front of them.
but
Right.
like it just means that like they feel like they have to say something nice to counterbalance something that they are perceiving as bad. And like I'm not gonna like sit here and say that like it would have been nice for my son to have a easier childhood and adult life ahead of him. But I also don't view any of his conditions as weaknesses or as bad or as something that needs to get fixed or cured.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I don't view him that way. If anything, all I do is I notice, right, how an entire society is set up to only support a certain few. And so that's when I get hot and upset because I'm like, oh, well, just like a person who's, and we hear it, the disabilities that are visible, right? Someone who needs mobility assistance or someone who needs visual assistance or hearing assistance in some capacity, adapting the environment so then everyone can thrive and move around and have access, right? It's the same logic. So it's not that I want him to change. I want you to change.
Absolutely.
I want this environment to change so then he can be successful.
Right.
And he can be himself because I love him for just who he is.
Right.
But instead we're having to like hustle and work and adapt and change and be flexible and mask and all of these things just to like kind of make it by. And you had mentioned something earlier about like being that in the gap kid, which again is non-Christian affiliated, but like being in that in between space. And I think in many ways it's challenging for them and for us because they pass.
Right.
They pass in so many areas and environments until they don't. And then all of a sudden everyone's confused and alarmed and like, oh, and then, you try to be like, oh, well, actually this is what's going on. Right. And then they're like, or maybe they're spoiled. Or maybe they just have too many screens. Or maybe, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, instead of being like, oh, fuck me, I made an assumption and it was wrong. I'm sorry. Maturity. And intelligence. Instead, they're like, oh, now, fuck you for making me feel bad. So now I'm gonna, react as such.
But that goes hand in hand with labels, right? We have plenty of things to say about that. But like I remember going into, I want to say my 8-year-old's journey, and someone had made a comment of, well, are you sure you want to do this while he's so young? Because once that label is there, it doesn't go away, or it's hard to have it go away. And I remember looking at them and being like, it doesn't go away. It doesn't. So like if he could possibly be diagnosed at any age, why would I go into it hesitating? Because he wouldn't be able to have the label come off later? Like, I was so confused by it.
Two things come to mind on that.
Yes.
The first one is, what is a label? What's a label? It's just the name of something, right? Like, we, as humans...
Which is so gross to say that you're putting that on a human.
But we do it with everything.
Yes.
We categorize everything. We need order and systems and all these things because it is how we like to navigate our lives. And so a label is just, this is a rug, this is a table, that is a person, that is a child. And so what you're doing is you're taking characteristics, traits, the way the brain works in one way, the way the brain works in another way, and you're labeling it.
Right.
And it's with the intention to understand. Right? And so when I hear, because I just recently heard in the lobby of our therapy place, this mom go on an absolute tangent about how it was recommended to her that her son get put on the wait list to get evaluated for autism. And she was like ranting and raving about like, well, he already gets this and he already does OT and he already, he has a 504 and he's doing really well in school. So like, I guess I'm just getting the diagnosis so then he has a label. And I'm like,
It's so hard to sit there and not chime in.
But it's, oh, girl, the amount of restraint I had that day. Everyone's lucky for it. But so I had this moment of pause because I was like, why is understanding something more clearly, right? And like, okay, sure, labeling it, which obviously is negative in your mind. What? But then I started getting really hot. I really, really sweaty, and my heart started pounding, and it started to feel like I might have to, like, chime in. And this woman's personality, like, I had to recognize that this woman's personality and my personality are not the two kinds of personalities that should be in the same room together. And so, like, already it was kind of grating that she was just there and talking. But then she goes on and on and on about, you know, well, I'm going to hire a PCA. And I just wanted to be like, not without a diagnosis or not. Good luck with that.
Right.
Pay out of pocket for everything. Right. And I'm like, I'm so happy for you that you have a great school that has a great 504 plan that is getting them great supports according to what you are hearing. BT dubs. Unless you're there and observing it. Right. You're just getting information from the school. Don't know. You don't know. And I'm guessing your child is maybe not able to fully communicate what it is he's experiencing throughout his day. So, and that's an assumption, but it's fine. But then I just started thinking, like, yeah, but a 504 is so easy to, like not fight for your rights on.
Right. And they aren't legally accountable to.
Yes. Whereas an IEP, there's at least the law on your side, and you can file lawsuits, and you can file discrimination suits, and all of these things to hold schools accountable and teachers accountable. But then I started thinking, like, but what about, like, all of these services and things that, like, are available to you? And then what about your child when the school isn't doing it right? Like, when he gets older? Because he looked like he was kindergarten age.
Well, and when he then becomes an adult, what does that look like?
Yes. Like, you're saving, like, it ain't about you. I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to be like, bitch, it ain't about you. Shut up and get the evaluation. And then eventually, like, her therapist got her there where she was just like, well, I'll send you some recommendations of places where you can get, you know, an evaluation done and yada, yada, yada. And she was just like, yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, she then went on a tangent about how her son was up until 11 o'clock at night playing video games with his dad because his dad really wanted to spend time with him. And I was like, well, I've already got a pretty accurate idea of the type of parenting you're doing anyway. So, like, chances are his best shot is to get this diagnosis. So then separate from you, he can maybe get some advantages. And then I had another thought where I said, you can't adopt every child you run into.
I know.
But it's so hard not to have that feeling of being like, can I support you, please? Can you come over here to my family? No. So the whole label thing, like, it drives me. So that was one, right?
Yeah.
Because I had two. Like, what is a label? Right.
Right, but it shouldn't be viewed as a label. It's a freaking diagnosis.
It's a diagnosis.
If you were to go in for a physical ailment on your health, wouldn't you want a diagnosis?
Yes.
Right. Yes. I'm not saying.
But, like, this makes me think of this. So, you have poor eyesight.
Sure.
You see an optometrist.
Right.
They go, you need glasses. Here you go. And you put them on and you say, I see so clearly now. This is great.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to school and someone says, look at you, 4 eyes. That's what I think of a label in that context.
Yeah.
So, like, they're worried about the quote-unquote label, which is just, like, code for bullying.
Right.
Like, I don't want them to be viewed, but guess what? This person can be the same
person. But the parent is doing
it.
it.
But
the parent is doing it by saying, I don't want this label for them.
Yes.
Like, the mind is a powerful thing if you view it as a label, as this negative context versus, I need to... Like, I'm constantly pushing for what resources and tools can I find, right? Like, and I will go out of my way to tell people because I am met with so many professionals saying, I don't seek it. I'm like, I'm just looking for tools. I'm looking for resources. I don't need you to see it. I don't need you to tell me not to go get an eval for her. I'm looking for the resources I need to best support my child. Period. I didn't mean to bring it up similar to like a diagnosis, like if you were to go in sick, because it is not a disease, it is not a ailment, but it's the same concept of we need to figure out and discover how your brain works. Your brain is such a crucial part of your body, just like your heart and everything else. Like,
I know. And
angry.
But it's just wild to me because I'm like, you're already here. You already know that your child needs help. You
already listed off all these things that you're already actively putting energy into.
Why is this such a leap for you? And like to me, I'm like, well, maybe he's the one that's like,
but
you know, but I like these again. Like we're jumping into assumption land.
Well, and not to jump into assumption land because it has to do with family, but like we have family members that are attached to said 8-year-old that felt guilty. So like you never know, right? Like I don't want to discredit the parents' mental health in the process either, but
it comes back down to it ain't about you.
Right.
It's about your kid. So get over it. Figure it out. Like figure out what you need to do to heal and move forward, and like just focus on what your kid needs. And then on your own personal time, like work through your bullshit. You know, there's this. Have you heard of Mel Robbins? She's huge. So she just came out with a book recently called Let Them. It's the Let Them theory. It's all over TikTok and all over social media right now. And in fact, it might just pop up on your phone since it's listening to me. And so it's not something she came up with. She just sort of refined this idea.
Absolutely.
And the Let Them is just like thinking about control. What can you control? You can control what you think, right? You can control what you feel, and you can control how you react to the things that you think and you feel, right? Those are the things that you can control. And this like practice of saying let them is saying you can't control what they think, what they feel, what they do. And so you let them, and it kind of like, because it's energy spent. When you, like this woman who called me and said, hey, your son's not working out here, and plus I don't think he has autism, I think he has anxiety. And I'm like, well, he definitely has anxiety, but he also definitely has autism. But like, I got really hot, and like for weeks and weeks and weeks, I obsessed over it. That woman probably got off the phone and then went about her day, right?
Yep.
So I could have just let her. I could have let her have her opinion, which was wildly incorrect and super fucking inappropriate to do over the phone with me. Unprofessional, should have lost her job, all of that. But like, I can let her do all that, right? And then let me make my decision then from there. I can let me be mad about it, and then I can let me be over it and walk away from it and recognize that she has her own whatever going on. And then provide, like, continue to provide what I need to provide for my son. And in so many of these cases, like, when we're met with these, like, passive, micro ignorances, right? Every time I'm just like, okay, that's clarity. I just got clarity about you. And I am going to allow myself to choose how I interact with you moving forward. And the access that you have to me, and especially my kid.
The veil goes up, the boundary is set, gate cut.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, you know, for anyone out there that is dealing with this or something similar to this, like, that practice, because we don't have enough energy to begin with, right? Our time is precious, our energy is precious, our buckets are not ever even halfway full. And so the biggest gift you can give yourself is to start looking at people and their actions and their thoughts and their opinions and their feelings and their whatever as just pieces of clarity, of information. You let them be them, you let you be you, and you move forward.
Well, and
from there.
Well, and just a great thing, not only to practice in those situations, but with your children.
Oh, for sure. But it looks different with children, only because
you still have to have the boundaries. You still have
to you can't just let them, they can't
Right.
just be like, oh, I'm going to eat ice cream for breakfast. And you're like, well, I'm going to let you have a stomach ache then.
Right.
Like, it's different for children.
Yeah. It just reminds me of the Pedro's whale. Let him have the whale.
Yes. And because, like,
or
so
like
many...
you're not going to stop him from spinning. You said that earlier. And wasn't there an educator or guide in his life that, wasn't it with one of the boys where they were like, well, and then he does this and we're trying to get him to stop?
Yes, it's with my youngest.
Oh, it is with my youngest.
It's with my youngest, and they were curious about, like, the spinning, and there was just a moment of, like, well, what are you observing? Is he spinning, like, because he's seeking big movement, like a sensory thing?
Right.
Or is he spinning because he's stimming?
Right.
But then because my youngest is undiagnosed, it's just a matter of perception and opinion from everyone involved. Speaking of my youngest.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a good,
it's a good segue. My youngest is doing really well right now. The behavioral plan they put in place, and these things that, adaptate, like giving extra time for adaptation, and then, between speech and OT and whatnot, and then them just figuring them out, right? Because it takes time to get to know a kid. He's been doing really well, it sounds like, in the classroom, which is great.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. He just had his kindergarten pre-screening.
Mm-hmm.
Girl.
Yeah. The one that, has to happen in order to
I have it right
go
here.
to school.
Yeah. So, you can get it as young as 3 and I think as old as 5 or 6, depending on when the birthday falls.
Mm-hmm.
So, early childhood screening. And you have to have it, which is fine. But the school sent out this email being like, hey, just by the way, this is coming home today in your child's backpack.
Mm-hmm.
And we just want to let you know that depending on the results that you get, if they say that they are concerned about development or hearing or vision or speech, that it doesn't necessarily mean something's wrong with your kid. So follow up, but don't be too freaked out.
So clearly someone that hasn't talked to you before.
Hold on. This wasn't just addressed to me, it was addressed to the entire school.
Okay.
Alternatively, if you got all results are normal, that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't need supports. So if you have concerns, still consult with your pediatrician. Now, here's my thing.
It's a little
the
tricky
school was
to
just like, here's the
tiptoe on
screening, don't take it at 100%, was basically their advice. It's actually really great advice because they get maybe 20 minutes with your kid. They consider no other information outside of what is right in front of them and the questions they ask these kids, which means they can't give you an accurate picture of the needs that they may have.
Right.
And I read the email and I was like, oh boy. Okay.
Gonna get a big old thick packet.
And I didn't. I got a congratulations and a single piece of paper that says all results are normal. And I found this funny because let's say I'm not who I am. I don't have the older kids that I have. I've never, whatever, right? Maybe I've been apprehensive or the adults in my son's life haven't cared enough to pay attention closely to his, let's say, speech in particular. I'd look at this and be like, okay, fine. Right. Now my kid is 7 and doing speech therapy on all of these different issues because he's in speech therapy.
Right.
And you can't have a conversation with my 4-year-old without hearing at least 5 different things that you're like, ooh, buddy. Yeah. Can you shape your mouth like, oh, no, you can't. Oh.
Right.
oh. And so it's not subtle. It's not like maybe he needs just a little, no, this kid will be doing speech for at least 2 years with the level of help that he needs. And the only reason why it's taken this long is because he was talking and, you know, most people could understand him, and he's so fucking charming and adorable that, like, I think you just, like, don't want to, right? Like, think anything bad of him. But I just, like, all results are normal. I'm like, well, that's funny because, like, that's not true.
But for the study that you guys did,
unspecified neurodevelopmental disorder condition or something like that, right? It's like this, like, and then she even said, like, come back in a year, we'll focus more on ADHD because it was a partial ASD study that he participated in. And so she's like, we'll do the full part of it for ASD, but I really want to make sure he gets the ADHD one because that's where he was getting pinged the most on all of these different traits, but that's just not what the study was focused on.
Sure.
And so, like...
But clearly there's still...
There's something going on. And, like, but again... He probably walked in and smiled, and then the adult was charmed, and he had, like, full sentences to tell her, and then, like, answered all of her questions.
Snapshot.
Because
when you're a kid that's in the middle, you can provide a snapshot to someone, and then later go home, and the next 24 hours is going to be your typical 24 hours of...
If not more exhausted because they had to perform, you know, and pull it together.
Yes.
And then I'm always like, for me, I'm always like, well, were there other kids involved or was it just adults? Because my children are very different with other adults than they are with same-aged kids or similar-aged kids. And I think because... they feel more grounded because they are communicating with someone who can meet their expectations, their emotional needs, and all of these things.
They're predictable.
They're predictable. And then with kids, it's too much of a wild card. It's too much of a draw 4, reverse, draw 2,
shuffle the wild.
over. Yeah. So, but here, you know, I got this. I am who I am. And I just kind of roll my eyes and I'm like, okay, well, he's in speech, so way to go there. And development, I know what I know. But it makes me think about all the families that it misses, right? Yeah. All the children that it misses.
Yeah.
But then it also has me going like, okay, at some point, everyone probably understands that this is not a great system.
Right.
To pre-screen kids in this manner with the current systems that are set up. And it makes me wonder, like, how much more time, effort, resources would it take to do the 20-minute snapshot, but then also consider the file, right? Like, have someone just fill out something. Do you have any concerns? Is this child enrolled in other things?
Right.
Oh, this child goes to OT and speech, and now these smaller things that weren't really big that I noticed are now, okay, now I see it because I have a greater sense of context. Like, or maybe just all work together and say, okay, it would benefit this child maybe to just, like, maybe just do an assessment, which is just one extra step with a whole team of people. And, like, I make it sound really easy, and it really isn't with early childhood stuff. But really, like, just do it. Just do it better. Like, create it better. And it's not the people who I think suck. No. It's the system that sucks.
100%.
And it's so frustrating that, like, a school has to send out an email and say, take it at 50% value.
Right.
Well, then why on earth would I
why are we even doing this?
Take this result into consideration?
Right.
This was a waste of time for them, for us, for the child. What is this here for? Because anyone who would actually qualify in a 20-minute snapshot, who would qualify for extra services, has already been pinged by someone else.
Yes. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
They had vision issues, the pediatrician, optometrist, blah. Hearing issues,
and maybe some of these kids aren't being seen.
Maybe some of these kids aren't getting proper wellness checks.
Absolutely.
And so I'll check.
Not to be that person.
No, you need to be that person.
That
you gotta be that person, because I just had a moment where my assumptions were just within my privilege. So now I recognize that there are probably families who don't trust doctors, who aren't being treated fairly, and in a medical system that isn't even set up to care for other bodies outside of white bodies. So I get that. So I apologize and I retract. However, like, I think the overall worry is still here.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because then those kids are relying on this 20-minute snapshot if they're, because it was voluntary to do.
Oh.
Like, I didn't have to say yes to this, but I know
because he doesn't go to a public school.
Well, because it's preschool. Like, you have to do this screening before you go to kindergarten.
Yeah.
And apparently, like, I have to turn in, like, a utility bill to prove I live where I live. That's so weird. Anyway, but yeah, it's just, like, this is something I got from, my middle child's school, which my youngest is about to go to. Wow, it's really hard not to say the kids' names. Which my youngest is going to go to now in August. And anyway, I just got the email with, like, all the information I need to submit and proof of an address as one of them. I was just like, my driver's license should be able to do that. Yeah. But they're not asking for a driver's license.
No, because so many people don't update their...
I mean, guilty.
Right.
But I'm also waiting for my name change. Yeah, so...
No,
that's exhausting.
Yeah.
And just, like... And frustrating.
Right.
Because, like...
Well, it's another thing, right?
It's another thing.
You have... Whether it's family, friends, people in the community, our... medical support system, like whatever the case may be, it's just another piece of paper or a person saying, I don't see it.
Yeah, right. And again, and we had talked about this kind of previously too, a few times, where the medical evidence and the medical documentation should count. Like, wherever else you go, it should just count.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Sorry, I had to do because the county.
Yeah.
The county and the state shouldn't have to be like, okay, we approve.
Well, but only if they're like, hey, show us your diagnostic evidence. Here you go. Okay, we approve. Like, you're not falsifying documents. But instead, they have to be the ones that assess.
My 8-year-old's recent thing came back because I have to specify more clearly what I have to do to adapt environments when he's dysregulated. What I have to do to... I can't remember the second one. I haven't done it yet because I'm just like, I'll get to it on Sunday when I sit with my computer. But I'm just like, why does the county... and it's a pretty detailed, like, you know how we are with our forms. Yeah. Like, it's very detailed to begin with.
Yes.
But in the email to me, it was almost worded like, hey, since it's kind of confusing because he doesn't need adaptations, but you're saying that you have to adapt his environment. Yeah. Just because he walks, he talks, he can do all these things and pass whatever you are assuming based on the snapshot of a county person coming into our home for 30 minutes.
And not even, like, truly observing your child, like, just talking to you.
He's required to be there, so not only is he now missing a day of school,
because
he's required to be there to say hello, then he disappears, right? But because he's able to disappear without creating chaos in that moment...
Well, because in order for me to answer your questions, he's gonna need to watch SpongeBob.
Absolutely.
Or play Minecraft.
Or play games. Because now we're enjoying our time at home and not being at school. And you're going, I mean, that's the other thing. The county... What was that? Squeaky, squeak, squeak.
The table? The floor? You thinking it's a mouse? Look, we saw the biggest centipede. I'm going to tell you this story. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Right.
So we had to go stop at IKEA.
Mm-hmm.
We make it home. We get everything inside. And I still got like one box left. And I hear my sister shouting from inside my place, I got pink towels in here! And I was like, yeah, I got pink towels from Target. And I hear her shouting again, yeah, you got pink towels here! And I'm like, oh my God, yes! Like, I know I'm a goth at heart, but yeah, I bought some pink towels. Like, it's good. And I get inside the house, and she's just standing there,
face off,
staring at the ground, and she's like, "Do you've got paper towels somewhere?" And I was like, "Paper towels? No." Captain Planet, like, what do you mean? I'm like, "No, I got pink. She was like, "Just grab a towel," because I always thought maybe you were looking for a towel to wipe up snow from the ground because we just dragged in a bunch of stuff, and she just goes, "You have the biggest fucking centipede right there." I was like, right where? And you were like, right there. And I was like, right there. And I come around, and she wasn't wrong.
Yep. It froze.
It was a full mustache. And so she's like, I don't want to get it with just like bathroom tissue. And I'm like, well,
too
no,
thin.
no,
that's too thin. You got that bamboo stuff.
So then I was like, well, I'll get a shoe. But it was actually like, you know when a bug is too big to even hit it with a shoe? And you're like, I'm not even sure a shoe will kill you. I yeeted that boot.
You know that? What's that Olympic thing where they throw the?
That's like the heavy medicine ball,
yeah,
or whatever. So I grabbed my big winter boot, and I was like, I'm just gonna chuck this at it and hope it stuns it or something.
She did.
And so it hit the ground, missed, right? But it bounced and hit it, and so it was like crippled. So then now it's like twitching and doing its thing, and I'm like, well, I gotta finish it now. So then I grab the boot, and I'm like, aim true, boot. And I then yeeted it super hard to the ground, and it smashed it, and I screamed into the void outside for everyone to hear, and then asked to move immediately from my new house.
I cleaned it up and brought her boot that had a couple legs hanging off.
So and then I had to wipe it off in the snow outside. So now here's our question for you. You pick up the dead bug, right? This dead centipede, which was very, very long and had very long legs.
I mean, it had some long eyebrows too.
And so then the question was, do I put it in the trash or do I flush it down the toilet? So what would you do? Would you put it in the trash and risk the resurrection of an angry centipede coming out your trash, or risk seeing it a few times before he's buried? Or do you flush it down the toilet, running the risk of a resurrected
back up in the toilet? I don't care who you are.
Crawl up into your Polly Pocket, into your smoochy smooch, where it gets all tangled up because it's not the 90s no more. And then, what do you choose? I chose the toilet because I have to trust our plumbing system.
No, you said that you would choose a vacuum if it was up to you.
Well, if you weren't here to touch it, I wouldn't have been able to wipe it up with anything.
It was fine.
And that's fine for you, but for me alone, I might have been able to scream and throw a boot at it, but I wouldn't have been able to wipe it up. I can't even think about it. So it would have been the vacuum and then me looking the other way while vacuuming it and screaming, and then I would have had to empty it and hope it wasn't super juicy and stuck to the side. And then I would have not looking into the trash bin, and then I would have had to quick seal and bring it 5 blocks down the street in someone else's trash bin. I don't do well with bugs.
No.
But I did successfully kill that centipede.
Yeah.
And now I will obsessively think about it for at least the next 5 to 7 nights.
Probably.
5 minutes.
The first night in our second childhood home.
I almost said the address out loud. How amateur. Yeah, that one.
I remember the first morning we woke up, I had a big old one on my pillow.
I think about it. You
feel like it was 18 inches long.
Can you imagine?
That was enough.
What's that? Is that one of my fake eyelashes?
Nope. Did I read that once in a smutty book? Yes, that 18-inch long fucking... Oh, it was...
Wait a minute. The smutty book about a centipede?
No, I'm just saying because I said like 18 inches. And then I was like, wow, that's absolutely ridiculous.
You're talking about
so
penises. Well, we went a little off topic, but this was Jessica.
This is Jennifer.
And this was the behavioral pan. We're sober. We have been drinking lemon LaCroix. Sponsor us, please. This was the behavioral plan. Podcast.